Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection. We are here in episode 188. For some of you, this may be your very first episode, in which case, welcome to Coffee and Connection. For some of you, you may have been waiting for Coffee and Connection to come back. We always take a break for With All Your Heart. And last week, I wasn't sure if we were going to do it or not. The truth is I was on so many phone calls over the last few weeks, connecting with all of you, reconnecting with my clients, speaking to so many of the VIPs that I couldn't even. I was like, wait, am I doing it? I'm not doing it. And the time came and passed, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing it. And so I was really looking forward to reconnecting with all of you this week. I hope that we'll be able to get through this episode, please God. We are in this new, I guess it is a new situation here in Israel with this war with Iran. We've been in and out of our bomb shelter. Thank God we have one just downstairs. There's all these different types of notifications that we can get. So if any of them come up, I will let you know. I'll stay here as long as I can, unless if there's a siren, then we'll have to cut it short. But I did want to take some time to be able to connect with all of you. I know definitely any of you, anyone like you can put in the chat, like if you're in Israel, if you're outside of Israel, if you're in Israel, I'm sure you've been dealing with this in your own way. We have not had a full night of sleep since Wednesday night. Thursday night, they woke us up just to basically declare a state of emergency. It was very confusing because waking up to a sound on our phones that we've only ever heard the two times that Iran attacked. Actually, we only had it once. They only started having those sounds Erev Rosh Hashanah. We didn't know what was going on. And we were preparing, and are we going down? We went down. Are we supposed to be here? Are we not supposed to? It was very confusing to then hear what was happening and what the news was. And then since Friday night is when we had the first actual siren. And there's been some it's amazing. It's unbelievable. I mean, they're seeing the attacks that have, the missiles that have fallen have. It's just crazy what damage can be done. And of course, tragedy, every single life that is lost. And also just recognizing the miracles beyond miracles that we have been experiencing from the beginning. I was listening to an update today, a podcast about like where we are in the mission, how we're like, as of yesterday, we're already 7 days ahead of plan. Everything that's been able to happen, all the pieces that have been coming together, everything that has occurred and still needs to occur, and the amount of casualties that were projected versus what's happening. It's unbelievable. Even the first wave of attacks, like not one siren even went off. It's unbelievable. And we do really have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge the miracles, like literally nisim v'niflaot. It is not to be taken for granted. We cannot take this for granted. And I was going to say, whether you're in Israel or you're not in Israel, I know my family, my clients outside of Israel have been messaging me, calling me. I know that many of them have told me they haven't been sleeping either, whether from checking the news or worrying about things. And I thank you all for your tefillot, your concern, your worry, your feeling of togetherness. We feel it, really, really feel that 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 achdut, that connection that we all really do have together. And so I wanted to just take a few moments to talk about some of the things I've been thinking about and what I think we can kind of see, like just understand, or what we can um connections we can make to take this into our lives. And I want to start by saying that, like, I'm in no way standing here saying like this is God's message or this is what we have to learn from it. I don't see myself in that role. That is not the role that I want to play. I don't pretend to know any of those things. I'm just going to share with you what I've been thinking and what I've been seeing, and what I see really can make a difference for women. And what I see is very important, especially when it comes to taking care of ourselves and dealing with the different challenges that can come up in relationships, and the differences that we can have in dealing with these kind of events, right? We're not, many people are talking about how they're having like corona flashbacks, because we are being told to stay home. We are being told not to stay home necessarily, but to stay close to a protected area. Kids aren't necessarily in school. People are staying home from work. It's a little kind of like corona, also very similar to post October 7th. So it can, not only is it challenging in its own on by itself, but it can also bring up it can bring up memories. It can bring up, feelings of stress. And I think one thing we have to remember, and I keep reminding this to my kids, like, we're talking about a week. We're talking about maybe 2 weeks. This is not something please God, they're projecting that that it is not something that's going to take a long time. And it's something that we have to remember, like, what we're dealing with versus what it might be reminding us of. Um, and I wanted to Oh, I also wanted to make sure, to just talk a little bit about like what find so fascinating about all of this is realizing, and there's so much we can take from this with our lives, realizing that there's always a bigger picture than we ever know. I mean, just the fact that the way they were able to pull this all off, this has been 20 years in the making. 20 years of Mossad infiltrations and setting up spies and setting up networks and bringing things in and dealing. And it's a crazy thing. I remember when this happened, however long ago it was, a year or so ago, when the beeper attack happened with Hezbollah, and it was the same thing. They were like, all this time, it's like, why aren't we doing anything up north? And people could get so upset at the government. Why isn't anything happening up north? And the army, why aren't you attacking? Meanwhile, they had this plan that they were planning for 10 years. 10 years. 10 years that people didn't know about and thought they were doing nothing. Meanwhile, like that, they set it off. They set off the plan, and Hezbollah was basically destroyed. This thing that everyone was so afraid of, that they were even warning the soldiers. When we finally go to war in the north, there's gonna be hundreds of casualties a day. This is literally what they were telling the soldiers. And then for it to basically be like we won in like a moment, right? How? Not to deny the fact that there were soldiers who did lose their lives. And of course, it's tragedy. But we have to, it's so clear to acknowledge that, like, there's always more to the picture than we realize. Whether it's we're frustrated at events, we could be looking around going like, come on, Hashem, like bring the ghoul already. Where's Mashiach? What's going on? And to realize like we have no idea what events are being set in motion. Of course, everything is bringing us to that place. We don't know how long it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to take to get there, but we can see and trust that like everything is bringing us there. I was hearing someone talk about today how everything that's happened in the last 2 years, and I'm in no way saying that this is why it's happened, because like I said, that is not my place, and how different events that have happened over the last 2 years, how that actually made possible what has happened in the last, what is it now, 3 days, which is basically, an almost, basically destroying Iran's, please God, Iran's nuclear capabilities, which is something that impacts definitely Israel and the entire world, right? And how, what October 7th made happen. And then even how the first attack that we had, like the week before Pesach, how that, allowed Israel to realize, oh, thank God, we can withstand these attacks. We can fight them. Like we never realize all the different pieces that are going on. And I think this is important for us to realize in our judgments of others, in our feelings of ourselves. Like we feel like we need to fix everything right now, right? And I hear this from women all the time. Like, we need to fix everything. I need to change everything. Why isn't it changing fast enough? Why aren't I there yet? No matter what our goal, whether it's trying to work on something in ourselves, whether it's trying to change something in our relationships, like I need it. I need change now. I need a different like why isn't anything happening? And it's so important to remember that there's pieces happening underneath. There are roots that are taking effect. There are changes that are happening. I always talk about this with my clients, especially around Tu B'Shvat time, where it's like cold and raining. Almost every year on Tu B'Shvat, we have like a snow warning, right? Which like we don't usually get snow, so it's like a whole big, oh my gosh, it might snow. And it's like, why are we having a Tu B'Shvat Seder in the middle of a snow warning? That's because we're acknowledging the fact that while it doesn't look like anything's growing, the roots are taking root, right? Things are happening underground. And that we always have to remember in our relationships and in our lives. We may feel like nothing's going the way we want, and maybe we just want to give up, and realizing that in continuing to move forward in our lives and taking small steps and taking action and committed action and staying committed to who we want to be and what we want to practice and what we want to learn, we step by step are making change. Even if we don't see it yet in the big picture, things are happening, right? And giving ourselves a sense of patience that like real work, real change, things that change the whole world, whether it's the actual world or our own world, it takes time. And we have to give ourselves that patience and that grace, right? That empathy of like it's gonna take time. Also, other people that we want to change, right? I hear people say all the time, I told my husband something and then he just forgets about it after 2 days. Well, it takes time for him to also create change, for him to remember something different to do, just like it takes time for you to be able to create something different, and giving ourselves grace, giving ourselves understanding that everything takes time. It takes time, and giving ourselves that permission for that to happen. Does that resonate? I'd love to hear any thoughts that you're having, anything that's coming up for you. I also want to point out, very important, I know anyone who's been here for a while has heard me talk about this, but I'm going to say it again because it actually was something that didn't come up so much over with All Your Heart this year. And it's such an important concept, which is that it's important to remember, contrary to what you often hear and see in other places, it is 100% possible and permissible and kosher and important to remember that you can feel two truths at one time. You can feel something and believe something else, and your feelings are not bad and they're not wrong, meaning it's okay to be scared. It's okay whether you're scared for yourself, your children, whether you're in Israel, you have family in Israel, whether you're scared about anti Semitism, whether you're scared of just the state of the world. Are we going into World War III, God forbid? Are we, if you're worried about, am I going to get to the safe room in time? Where are all my children? Where are my grandkids? Where are my family? It's okay to be afraid. It's so interesting how we live in a time where fear has been like villainized. It's like, "Ah, if you're afraid, it means you don't have a muna." And it's so fascinating because it's not in the Torah, that's not there. It's not there. Like we see very clearly that like and I we talked about this a lot 2 years ago. I can't believe it's almost 2 years. But the idea that when Yaakov was getting ready to meet Esav, he did everything he needed to do. He davened to Hashem, he did his ishtalut, he split up his camp, everything he needed to do. And it still says he was afraid. And the commentators don't berate him for that. And he doesn't get in trouble for that. Like, of course he was afraid. It's okay for him to be afraid. Why was he afraid? It's not that he didn't believe in God. And there was this one when there's one rabbi, my high school rebbe, who one of my high school revies who, after October 7th, I said he's the only one whose share I want to listen to because I knew he would give very real, practical advice, Rabbi Yitzchak Feigenbaum. And he said, actually, was Zocha to see him in the streets of Jerusalem over the last month or two. And I was like, oh my gosh, Rabbi Feigenbaum. And I want you to know I listened to your share and I've shared it with women. And he said like this, he specifically mentioned Yaakov. He said, of course, Yaakov believed in Hashem. Is Yaakov. He davened to Hashem. He believed in Hashem. Of course, he knew Hashem was going to like that. He was going to come out. He was going to come out of the situation, but he didn't know what the situation was going to bring. He knew that he was going to come out of it successful, but he didn't know what price he was going to have to pay. And that's what was scary. And we know Yaakov came out of it limping. He came out of it injured, right? He fought with the angel all night. He was injured. He said, we know, we can have Amunah. We know that we're going to come out of this. We know Am Yisrael Chai. We know we're going to survive. We know that we are here, Am HaNetzach. We are here, Am HaNetzach, Lo Mefached Me'aderech Aruka, as the song goes these days. Am Yisrael is not afraid of the long road. We know we're going to come out of it alive, but we don't know what price we're going to have to pay. And that actually has been the message that they've been giving us. That's been Netanyahu's message to us. He says we're strong and please God. And he's been talking about Hashem a lot, especially over the last year or two. He says we're going to survive this, but we're going to pay a price too. And please God, we should pay a small price. And there's already been a price. There's already been casualties and much less casualties than they expected, which is a miracle. They said we have to be careful and diligent to take care of ourselves and to listen to, and to do what we need to do to stay safe because we don't know what it's going to bring as we go through the process. And I think that's really important for us to remember. I'm not coming here to like talk politics or any of that. I'm just saying that that message is so in line with, I believe, the like what we, even as religious Jews, can feel in this time. It's okay to be scared. Going through a time period like this and being afraid and then beating ourselves up for being afraid or telling people, don't be afraid, we have a moon. Like it just, what we now have to also feel guilty, also feel like we're doing something wrong. No, we have our Tehillim for Tehillim for Tehillim, right? As is very interesting, right? Tehillim is rocket. So Tehillim for Tehillim, we say Tehillim, we daven, we learn, we do chesed, we do what we need to do. We do our ishtadlut, right? And we know Hashem is taking care of us. We're being moda, we're being thankful. And if you're feeling afraid, it's also okay. Don't beat yourself up for that. It's scary. We don't know what is going to happen. We don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like. It's okay to be afraid and also to use that even to acknowledge, okay, like Yaakov did, right? Okay, how do I take care of myself? Is my safe room ready? Do I have food down there? Do I have lighting? Do I have, as we saw, we needed some type of fan, right? We realized over Shabbos. Do I have a radio set up over Shabbos that's going to give me announcements? Do I have, like, we take practical steps. And it does not have to mean that you don't believe. And it's important to remember that different people also are going to handle it differently. So you and your husband, or you and your children, or you and your neighbor, you and your sister, whoever it is, might have different feelings and different experiences that you're having. Some people are more concerned, some people are less, some people feel detached. They don't even want to think about what's going on. Some people cannot put their phones down, cannot turn off the news, cannot stop calling people, cannot stop being engaged in it. Some people are nervous, and some people are just like, no, everything's going to be okay. Some people are very self focused, right? They're focusing on, oh my gosh, I have to get down. I can't believe how am I going to deal with all my kids? How am I going to handle this? Other people are very nation focused. They're very like worried about everyone. They're thinking about the big picture. Some people are very nervous and traumatized. And some people, right, you see this also with kids. I know my family in Chutzlar, some of the kids want to know everything. Tell me, what's on the news, mommy, what's going on? And some of the kids are, or even here, are like traumatized. They can't hear about it. They can't think about it. And it's important to acknowledge that there are different ways of handling it. There are different feelings that people have. There are different experiences that people have in this, and to not make any of them right or wrong. Just to be realistic. If you have a friend who, is very self focused, and that's very hard for you because you're more nationally focused, so don't speak to them right now, right? Don't spend so much time with them instead of trying to tell them or getting frustrated with them. If you know somebody who's very traumatized by this, you don't have to start telling them everything. If you know somebody who's very fear focused, don't try to pull them out of the fear by telling them, "Oh my gosh, just have Amuna." Like, give everyone the respect of being able to deal with it in their way. Everyone's going to have their way. And when that comes up in your relationship, maybe you and your husband are dealing it with it differently, to also give grace for that. Right? If you're feeling more nervous than your husband, he's saying, it's okay, don't worry. You say, I know, please God, it's going to be okay. And I want to make sure we all are careful. I want to make sure that we're, I want to be careful. And if you're feeling more laid back and he's all stressed out about it, recognize he's trying to take care of you and be thankful and grateful. And don't try to calm him because that's probably going to make him more nervous. Just, be like, give him that space. It's very powerful to give everyone their space to handle it the way that feels right for them and to know that we can even feel multiple of these feelings at the same time. You may be feeling grateful and fearful. You may be feeling concerned and also just in awe. We can feel all of those feelings at the same time. So with that, I'd like for us to take a moment if we can all say some Tehillim together. Does that sound good for everyone? And I was thinking that we can stand in that place of feeling two truths at the same time and both say Mizmor Latoda and Shir Lamalot, so we can acknowledge both our awe and gratitude to Hashem, and also daven for continued shmirah, continued guarding and um, really shielding. I don't know if I've ever like the idea of Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen that we say in the first bracha of Shmona Esrei. I remember my sister teaching me years ago that she had learned how it's like a progression. It's like your king who takes care of you, and the higher level of that is he melech, that he helps you, and then the higher level of that is he saves you, and the higher level of that is he protects you. And I always thought of that. And the last few days, I've just been thinking like, oh, well, we actually need all of them at the exact same time, right? We need a melech who's giving us direction and who's, making sure that everything's happening in the right way. And an Ozer who's helping us as we, as we run to the safe room or as the planes fly to Tehran, right? And we need a Moshiach, we need somebody who's going to save us. And again, we need a shield. We need Ananei Kavod just protecting us. And and I will say that the other pasuk that's really been resonating for me is Ana Adonai Hoshiana, Ana Adonai Hotzlichana, that Hashem should both protect us and make us successful. That's what we need. We really need both of those. We need protection and we need success in this very, very important mission and this very important time. So if you have your Tehillim, if you have it on your phone, we can start with Perek Kuf. um, I'll say it, you can say it with me. I don't have the best Hebrew pronunciation. I may have been living in Israel for 25 years, but my Hebrew is still not so great. And I learned very Ashkenaz, like a mix of Ashkenazi and Sephardi even in school. So whatever it is, I'm gonna do it in my own accent, and you can all do it in your own. Mizmor lesoda, hariu ladonai kol haaretz, ivdu et Adonai besimcha, bo lefanav birnana, de'u ki Adonai hu Elohim, hu asanu v'lo anachnu, amo v'tzon merito. Bo'u sa'arav b'toda, chatzrota b'tehillah, hodu lo, baruchu shemo, ki tov Adonai leolam chasto, va'ador vador emunato. Ah, so much gratitude, so much that we have to be thankful for. And now let's say Kuf Lamed Aleph to daven to Hashem to continue to keep us safe, to continue to protect us. He who, even though, well, we're not sleeping either, because haven't had a full night of sleep since Wednesday night, but he really never sleeps and is always watching over us. Kuf Kaf Aleph. Shir Lamaalot, Esa Einai El Haarim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Ezri Me'im Adonai, Ose Shamayim Va'aretz. Al Yitain Lamot Raglecha, Al Yanum Shomrecha, Hine Lo Yanum Velo Yishan, Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha, Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakeka, Ve'yareach Balayla, Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzeitcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. And I think it's important for us to remember that to daven both for each and every individual, and also here at home, or please God in Israel, and definitely everyone out who feels that there is, what to be fearful of, but also to pray for success of those who are carrying out the missions. And Bezrat Hashem, Hashem should keep them successful and keep them safe. And it is the siyata dishmaya, the shomer that Hashem has been giving is beyond words, and it's important for us to acknowledge. So, if anyone has any questions or thoughts, please don't hesitate to share them. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll do my best to respond how I can. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for whether you're on live or if you're feeling, you're listening to the recording. I thank you for being a part of this community where we can really connect in real ways about real life as it's going on. Um, what if you feel protected and have a muna that it will go well, but your body is having a different reaction, stress and tension? Yes, it's important to acknowledge that it is stressful, that it's tense, because what your body is sensing is that practically there is danger. And I was saying before, you can have total amuna and know that what is amuna? Amuna is knowing that there's an ultimate plan, knowing that there is Hashem in control. And part of that is also shomer al nafshotecha. And we also have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. We have to protect ourselves because we can't rely on we can't just, I believe in Hashem, right? That's amuna. I believe Hashem has an ultimate plan, and yet we also know that there is danger. There are dangerous situations. There are, there's no right. Like there's that feeling of there's first of all the siren itself. If you're in Israel, the feeling of this. It's depending on where you are. We have a siren, thankfully, and the more difficult. It's very good because we know we'll always wake up from it, but we actually have a siren on top of the building next to us and another one not so far away. So it's very loud. Or even the messages that go off on our phones these days, they're scary. And it's almost, people have been asking me, like, why do they have to be so scary? It's meant to be scary. It's meant to wake you up, literally or figuratively, like, get to safety. Do what you need to do. Do not become complacent, right? It was actually this week's Parsha. Isn't that wild? Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about that. This week's Parsha was all about the shofars, right? That when you go to war, you blow shofar, right? Or you make shofars for two different reasons. There's the tekiah, which is like the all clear, and then there's the trua, right? Which is the scary sound that you blow in times of war. This is so interesting what we learned from this from Rosh Hashanah. It makes Rosh Hashanah shofar blowing so much more meaningful when you understand and have experienced the difference in the different kinds of sirens. Um, it's meant to scare you and tell you something, Yom Din, like a scary thing is happening. And it's very important to acknowledge that there is something scary that's happening. So that stress and tension is in your body. Um, Practically, it's there to help you survive, right? Like the way Hashem created our bodies is that when there's a dangerous situation, it sets off our body sets off hormones that give us energy. So when we feel that stress, the ideal is to do something with it. So that's why when everyone's been asking me, how are you doing? How are you holding up? I've been telling them honestly, what I've been doing is trying to stay busy, trying to stay busy, trying to stay busy. Yes, there's a lot to do, but also when we have all that adrenaline in our body, right now, except for running perhaps to a miklat, running to your safe room, running to your bomb shelter, wherever you are, um, we don't have to actually go out and like, fight generally, right? We're not running for our lives unless you have to run, down the block. So we have all this extra hormones coursing through our body. That's the stress feeling. So I invite you to find something to do with all of that extra energy, whether it's saying Tehillim, whether it's, keeping busy, if it's throughout the day, maybe taking some time to do some exercise, also good not to just get stuck in your house. Um, because that also exercise also gives your body the message that you're safe because you like sweat and your heart rate goes up and then so it's like, oh, everything's safe, right? It's kind of ironic that way, but stress actually helps your body calm down. So to find something to do with that feeling, and like I said before, please don't beat yourself up for feeling stress, for feeling tension. It's your body's natural way, the way Hashem created you to be able to have the energy to deal with what is a situation that calls for action, right? It calls for action. We do need to make sure everyone's downstairs or upstairs or wherever you have to go, that you have everything that you need, that you're taking care of, right? So finding ways to release the tension, right? Making sure that we sleep when we can sleep, making sure that we're taking time to relax. It could be, at the same time that I say, you can say Tehillim, we also want to make sure that we're not overstressing ourselves out, like to take some time to relax, to take time out to sleep, to take time to just play, right? Like to remind your body that you are safe, but not beating yourself up for feeling that stress or tension. It's the way you were created to feel that loud sound and the fact that telim are coming, ballistic missiles. Yeah, that is scary. That is scary. No matter how much amuna you have, it's scary, right? There's something to be like to take action about. And and then that amuna can help to relax you, but please don't beat yourself up for feeling that way. Okay? How can you remain patient while it plays out, even if you know it's for the good in the end? It's such a good question. And I think one thing we have to remind ourselves of is, like I started out with, right? This idea of like, "Oh, why isn't this over yet?" And yet, it's been 3 days. It's so wild, right? It's been like 3 days: Friday, Shabbos, Sunday. Okay, we're in the fourth day already. But like I keep saying to everyone, sorry, I have to sneeze. Whew, excuse me. It's 4 days that feels like 100 days because every day is like 100 days, right? Every day is like 10 years. You have no idea. Kind of like when every time I talk about the first week after October 7th, like, oh, that was the second day? Like that felt for like a year after. Like every day feels like a long time, especially when it's new and it's like, are the kids going to like, how long are we home for? What's going on? So thank you for the bless you. So to feel patient is to remind yourself like there is a plan, especially now we have they've given us like a bit of a timeline of like they're saying like please God at most 2 weeks. I think to remind ourselves that like it's a process and we're already ahead of schedule. Like I said, I heard yesterday we're already 7 days ahead of schedule. It's wild. There's so much we can continue to daven for because there's so many things that can take us. It can make it way faster, or that can send hiccups along the way. So we can keep davening and remember that it is a process, right? Just like of course, it's so hard to think of the fact that, like, this whole war, if because really it's all one war, right? All of this is Iran's proxies. Hezbollah and Hamas are all, and the Houthis and Taiman, they're all proxies of Iran. So it's all one war. The fact that it's been already almost 2 years is like, it's heart wrenching. I seriously, sometimes I just feel so tired. Like, how can this still be going on? And we have to remember that it is a process and things do take time. Things do take time. And the way I find actually, if you're like, what do I do to help is to really look at, okay, sometimes we have to look back and say, okay, we've been in this for 2 years and it feels like forever, but what has actually, like, wow, what's actually happened in 2 years? If you think about it, it's mind blowing, right? How are we even able to do this attack on Iran? Well, so many of their proxies have been destroyed in the last 2 years, less than 2 years. Hezbollah destroyed. The Hamas basically destroyed. Syria destroyed itself. Like we just woke up one morning and Syria was gone. Lebanon is basically telling the Hezbollah, don't do anything. Even the Houthis are like, we've taken like how much strength do they have? Like it's unbelievable. Like, whoa, wait, a lot has happened. And also to recognize the nisim, the niflaot, the miracles. Like, yes, it's already been so many days. Yes, it's another, I'm sure, please God not, but we have to prepare for another night that will be woken up. And yet to remember that it's a process that is bringing, like, we don't even it's a process that is getting somewhere. It is getting somewhere. We had somebody over actually on Shabbos. Somebody came over who was actually living in Ukraine, and he moved from Ukraine to Israel right before October 7th, which is like, oh, you went from one place to another. But he said that it's so different. In Ukraine, it's just like non-ending. Like it feels to them like there's no reason, like there's no end in sight. And they're just exhausted by it. And it's hard for them to like continue living during it. It's hard for them to like know how to live life. He said, here in Israel, people are somewhat, for better or for worse. Like we've had situations like this, not like this, but we've dealt with struggles. So it's weird for people. Someone just said this to me last week. We were sitting, I was having coffee with a few past clients, and they were like, "It's weird for me that we're sitting at this table and having coffee while there's a war going on." And I said, "Yeah, it took us, first it took a few weeks that we weren't doing this. Nobody went out. How could you sit and have coffee in a restaurant?" But then like life has to go on, and the soldiers, the hostages, they want that. And life has to go, economy has to work, like the country has to continue to function. People have to function, right? And like we kind of know how to okay, like move forward with it. Um, and how that's gives strength and that gives the ability to move forward in the situation. I know that connected somehow to the question. I'm trying to remember now exactly how the conversation I had with this guy was reminding me of this question. But yeah, not to give up. And when we feel like a feeling of feeling patient, to acknowledge wow, how much has happened and how many miracles are happening and how life is continuing and how it's all a process. And we can especially remember it's a process that's getting us somewhere. That's what we believe. That's what it means to be of maminim, right? Of believers. We believe that everything is getting us closer to a process. Now, will it take a year? Will it take a day? Will it take 10 years, 100 years? We don't know. But we believe that there is a process that's unfolding. So miracles and acknowledging the good and being like acknowledging movement, like I said, in all areas of life is so important. And yes, they are scary. We changed the ringer. The kids were more scared from the phone than the siren. It's so true. And the ones that come up from Pikuto Oref, from the home front, you can't change that sound. That's just like your phone. It is scary. And again, I think it is meant to kind of shake us awake and make sure that we feel it. I feel that I cannot fight my mental energy and not to think of how the mamad protects when really it is Hashem. I feel scared even in the mamad, and I keep on making cheshbonos that negate emuna. So, what I invite you to consider is that it doesn't negate your emuna. It doesn't, right? Because look, we have emuna in Hashem, and there are casualties. There are casualties. There are casualties. It's a reality in a situation that like that there have been people who are killed, children, old people. There are people who have been killed. It's not anti-amuna to be thinking about how the mamad protects. What you can also think about though is that the fact that we have mamads, the fact that we have that technology, the fact that buildings are made with them, the fact that they work is from Hashem. I saw a video today. I even though I knew exactly what the video was going to be showing, I was not prepared for the scope of it. It showed a mamad, and the only thing in the mamad that you could see had happened was the window was cracked, and then it went out of the mamad to the rest of the apartment. I cannot even describe to you the destruction that that apartment was in. It was just debris. It was just destruction. That's a miracle. That is a miracle. It's a miracle that it is. It is. And so being able to feel, okay, I'm more protected in the mamad than out of the mamad is hishtadlut. It's hishtadlut. It's Yaakov separating the camps and sending gifts to Esav and bowing down and saying, Esav, you have the bracha back. It's hishtadlut. It's hishtadlut. It doesn't negate your amuna. So I invite you to go into your mamad, feel safer in your mamad, say a parak of Tehillim, thank Hashem for the fact that you have a mamad. How many people do not have mamads? How many people don't have bomb shelters to go to? Unfortunately, too many. Too many. There are too many people that don't have them, and even they may have to run blocks to get to them. And so I invite you not to feel guilty for having those thoughts, and remember that it does not change your amuna to be thinking those things. Does that help you? Please let me know in the chat any, your thoughts. You're very, very welcome. And yes, I'm so glad that we could be together today. I'm glad that it worked out. Thank God that it has stayed silent. Please God, it should continue to be silent. I know there were sirens up north earlier, basically about 9 o'clock, which I was like so sure this was not going to be a good time. So please God, everyone should be safe. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you for joining. Please keep davening. Please keep, you know, loving yourself and taking care of yourself through all of this. And let's only, please God, only besorot tovot. May Bezrat Hashem, we only hear good news. Let's keep hearing the good things, looking for the good. Amen to all your brachos. May we all feel protected. May we all see nisim v'niflaot. May we all be celebrating. I'll tell you, on Friday, my husband came home from the Makolet after he went shopping for Shabbos with napkins that said Chag Sameach. He was like, today already is a Chag. So much to celebrate, and may we continue to celebrate, and may there be only Bisarot Tovot, only good news for all of Am Yisrael. May we all get good sleep. May we all be safe from all of our enemies. May our enemies forget that. May we be safe, but also may our enemies be destroyed, every single one of them. And may we live safely. May we all be able to go and serve Hashem in the most intense way, feel so intensely connected to Him in the Beit HaMikdash very soon. I look forward to seeing all of you here. I look forward to hugging all of you and dancing together with all the hostages and the soldiers and all of Am Yisrael together, and we all be able to hug each other and know so clearly that we are all protected, we are all strong, we are all loving each other and as one, serving Hashem together. I Bezrat Hashem look forward to seeing you all next week. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.